Good evening and welcome to the March 3rd, 2025 City Council meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the February 17th meeting.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 3 is hearing of public concerns. Mr. Cox?
Thank you. Due to the weather, et cetera, and the fact that we haven't had any real bad stuff, there's still a fair amount of loose gravel on the Eastland Estates Road, particularly along the edges of the pavement. So, and the salt's all been washed off. And we would appreciate the removal if you possibly can.
We're probably not going to be able to do anything until spring because of the fact if it snows again, because we don't want to get salt in the, what's it called, Tyson?
Street sweeper.
Yeah, you can't do that. We can't risk it. Am I correct, Tyson, in saying that?
Correct.
Okay.
We'll be out in April or May.
Yeah, it's going to have to wait till April or May just because we don't want to risk the damage of the equipment. Even though it may not look like there's salt on the road, there possibly still could be that could damage the street sweeper.
Okay. Well, eventually, in order to get some of the gravel that's already migrated into the yards, you're going to have to use the leaf vacuum system to get that out. So I was hoping to get a quick start on it. But again, I didn't see any signs of the salt.
Yeah, like I said, we're not going to be able to do that at least until April or May.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Anything else? Item number 4 is ordinance. John, will you please number and read?
Ordinance number 6, 2025, an ordinance providing for the transfer of funds for the city of Bryan for the month ending March 31st, 2025. There's 3 items in this transfer ordinance, all of them budgeted transfers in the 2025 budget. The first 2 are related to transfers from the 1% tax fund to the general fund and the streets fund, as is normal. And then the third item would move the money into the police and fire building debt retirement fund, which we do once a year to make that payment.
Well, I'll motion to suspend.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Move to approve. I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 5 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 7, 2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Siebenaler and Construction Company for the project known as Alteration to Bryan Fire Department and appropriating $137,000 to fund said contract.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is something that we started budget for back about 2 years ago, and we have had some changes, obviously, in pricing of things. John's worked through some of that, so I'll let him kind of work through the financial details of this. But the original project was to look at 4 rooms to house 24-hour firefighters. And we thought that that would be about 50 to 60% of the room. When they started looking at it, we can only do 6 rooms total, and we were going to touch most of the space, so we enlarged the project a little bit to do the whole thing at once. We'll end up with 6 rooms, 1 storage room, common area, and that hopefully will take care of everything that the station needs for the rest of its existence. I say that now.
What I would add from the financing standpoint was there was $115,000 budgeted for this in 2024. Some of that was used for the design or the architect work. There was about $100,000 left, and by the time we were talking about the budget, I guess in my mind, we were still hoping that we might get that money encumbered before the end of the year. We did not. Bids were just opened, so effectively we'd be reappropriating $100,000 that was in last year's budget. But then the bids came in a little higher than we had expected at $159,950. There's some money in the chief's budget that he can cover some of that, but that's why the appropriation number in here is $137,000.
So where's the other 37 coming from on?
We have two capital projects that we're going to put off this year. They're smaller projects. We need to get them done, but not necessarily this year. So we'll take that amount of money, bring that back into this project to help fund it. We'll cut back on that.
$37,000 that is still short, because that, about $22,000 is in your
22 roughly,
budget.
yeah.
That brings
Yeah.
your 159 down to 137. That other $37,000, Mr. Betts, would come out of the reserve balances in the 250 fund, in the
Okay.
fire department fund.
Yeah, I certainly remember, Steve would not, but just as a catch-up, this was discussed, like you said, a couple years ago. It's been budgeted, it's all well understood. Sounds like due to many things that occur in our current environment, after time goes by, we end up, it costs more, and to be able to get to where we get, it ends up costing more. So I get that too. I'd just like to know where the stuff's coming from, so I appreciated that explanation. Thank you.
Ditto. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I ask that you approve this so that we can get started. I know Siebenalers is ready to go. It's that time of year that they can take the project on immediately.
I'll move to suspend.
And I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Move to approve.
And I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is a resolution. John, please number and read.
Resolution number 16, 2025, a resolution in support of State Issue 2, renewal of the State Capital Improvement Program on the May 6, 2025 statewide ballot.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
Mayor wanted me to talk a little bit about State Issue 2 and the State Capital Improvement Program. It was started about 40 years ago, 85, 86, was put on the ballot, passed. Basically, they sell bonds, and those bonds are used to generate funds for infrastructure. It's been renewed 3 different times. We're in the 4th term of it. Oddly enough, that's State Issue 2 is what it's going to be this time. It was State Issue 2 in 1986 when it was on the ballot as well. In '06, when it was renewed, they had to change it to Issue 1, so we always called it Issue 2, but it was still Issue 1, so it's going to be interesting that it's back to Issue 2. But just a little history on that, of how important it is to the city of Bryan. Prior to me being here, the first term, we'll say round 1 of this, 87 to 96, between Louis Byersmith and Tony Heffel, the city engineers, they brought in $692,000 of grant funds to the city out of the first round. The second round, from 97 to 05, Todd Roth was city engineer, he brought in $238,000. The last 2 terms, from 06 to 15, which I've been here, we've brought in, let's see, the first term, $1.595 million, the second term, $1.825 million. So we brought in the last 18 years, $3.2 million to the city of Bryan and Bryan Municipal Utilities. Of that, there were 4 water supply projects that we had approved for $1 million, and the balance was actual wastewater and road projects. So aggregate, out of this whole program in 40 years, $4.350 million we've generated from this program. Free money. Not a loan, grant. So it's imperative that we do everything we can to help try and pass this ballot measure. It's bonds that are being sold. They provide zero-interest loans, low-interest loans to communities that can't really get the grants. And again, these grants are competitive. You know, you're ranked on population, and there's so many different things, so they are competitive. They don't just hand them out. You have to have a competitive project. And we found a pretty good niche between water and sewer projects where we can get this funding at and get to the point where we qualify. So I really strongly urge you to pass this resolution of support for this program.
Can you, yes, totally off that issue. I understand that. Can you help me understand why so much more? And if you want to say it's me because I'm so handsome, that's all fine. But can you explain in any way what the difference is in the last 06 to 15? Why there was so, seems like significant more, I haven't done the math.
I don't know if, so they're competitive. We have districts, and so we have a county level, and there's at most 6 projects that could qualify out of Williams County. 3 for water and sewer and 3 for roadway.
Okay.
And each of the counties then go to a district level, and we're in competition. I think there's 7 or 8 different counties in our district, and those all get aggregately lumped together. So I don't know if maybe I've applied more often. I mean, I'll apply for 3 projects every year. It's worth the gamble. You know, we may not get it because obviously Edgerton, Montpelier, Stryker, every other community can apply for these funds. The county can as well. You know, we don't have good luck with roadway projects. They don't rank high enough because we don't have high enough traffic counts. So I don't know if maybe I'm just hungrier for money and I just apply for more than what they did in the past, but either way, $4.4 million is great to have, so.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Is there, talk to me like I'm John Q. Public. I don't know any of this. I don't know anything. What has this $4.4 million concretely meant? I heard the water, I heard wastewater. What's it to me? What's it to me, I can answer. It's less tax money out of my pocket.
Have you driven Brunicardie Way lately?
No, I'm doing
Get
this
paid to pave
for the
that.
paper.
Have
I
you-
think we need to get this information
Right.
out to the
Yeah.
people.
Have you driven Fountain Grove Drive? Before the school was built, or while it was being built, we received $250,000 of grant funds towards that.
So-
Most of the grant monies we get, you don't see, because it's in sewer and water and it's underground.
Okay, but what you can see, no, that's okay.
I can
You
see-
still want to flush your toilet, right, Wes? That's somewhat important, right? So I think that needs to be pointed out, that they're water sewer projects, but the other 2 that are above ground are Brunicardie.
Yeah, I've had two roadway projects here, Brunicardie Way and Fountain Grove Drive rehab, and Louis Byersmith did some Center Street improvements. That was only a $20,000 grant he applied for, so I'm not real sure what that was in 1994. I don't know, I just had the project
And these things all
name.
improve our community.
Oh, and it saved $4.3 million out of the 0.5% income tax that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to spend.
That's called teeing it up, folks. Thank you. Well, I think it needs to get out there because most people I talk to, when they talk, so you went on and on about, this was about a year and a half ago, you went on and on with Bryan Whelan about how bringing grants in was so great. What's it great to me? And I
We
had to
haven't
think a
increased
second.
your
I'm stretching your tax dollars farther.
Yeah, and my response, well, that was the only thing I could think of at the moment because I had no specific detail.
Right.
But my response was, you didn't have to pay for whatever those projects were.
Yeah, see, 3 years ago, we got 2 projects, Lynn Street Water Line and Western Bryan Sanitary
That's
Sewer.
good.
Last year, we received 1 project for South Myers Sanitary. This year, we received 2, $175,000 for South Walnut Sanitary and $275 for East Mulberry Street Water.
I just think we need to celebrate and vocalize.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't be able to spend as much if I didn't have this, so.
Thank you, I'm sorry, but I just felt like that needed to be done.
And to follow up with that, the request actually came from Ohio Municipal League on this resolution of support for the Ohio communities that have benefited from this program. And I would like to remind the taxpayers, this is not any new money. This is a renewal on a program that they've been doing for
40 years.
nearly 40 years.
Good point.
And it's very essential to the Bryan community that this remains
I like that.
a tool for us.
It's a renewal, and there's value to use personally, that you don't have to pay for any of this, and that this is highways, byways,
Sewers, water. Yeah.
Love it, thank you.
We even received $70,000 to cover interest payments on the 2012 sanitary sewer overflow elimination project that we did. They covered the interest for the first couple years of the loans on that project till we paid it back. So that was another avenue,
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Wheeland.
And with that, I will, is it a suspension?
A suspend.
Suspend the rules on, was it resolution to support state issue 2?
I'll second.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
And I'll move to approve.
And I'll second.
Steve,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Item number 7 is a resolution. John, please number and read.
Resolution number 17, 2025, a resolution authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreation for the city of Bryan to apply for a grant for the city of Bryan through the Bryan Area Foundation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just as John stated, asking permission to apply for a grant through the Bryan Area Foundation. Grant specifically will be used over at East End Park if awarded. We're working on doing a pedestrian pathway in and around East End Park.
Has there been an estimated amount that you're going to ask for, or is that not for publication at this time?
We're asking for about $45,000. The
Okay.
project itself is around $74,000.
Okay.
Obviously, it could all be adjusted according to funds available.
Sure, sure.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Move to approve. I'll second.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is the appointment of CRA members from the mayor's office.
Yes, council, I have given you a list of members we would like to see appointed to a 3-year term for the community reinvestment area. They actually meet annually, usually at the end of March, beginning of April, with Andy, and approve the list of CRAs that council has approved throughout the calendar year. I would like to thank Dick Reed. He has served on this CRA committee for a very, very long time, and wants to kind of retire from the things he's been volunteering for. And as you know, he gave him, I think, Mr. Hoopy, 16, 18 years on city council before doing additional 8 to 10 years on this. So he's been a great champion for this community. But with that, Andy and I were looking at the list, and there were a couple other open seats. So the new members are AJ Novacek, Michael LaRoe, and Dawn Klein. And we really just tried to make sure that all 4 quadrants of the community were met by members that lived in each ward. So, and then kind of filled in on the other pieces. So I would request that you approve this list so that Andy can get them in here to approve that annual report.
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Thank you.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Item number 9 is permission to give the civil service test for firefighters to the fire department.
Once again, I'm back to ask for permission to test. We've went through the list. Seems like we do this way too often. I will make a slight change to the letter you have in front of you. It said we were going to retain one member that was still on the list. After review, we're going to pass that individual. So we need to get a new list, get a new civil service test in place. We have one vacant position and would like to get that filled as soon as I can.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Chief.
That concludes everything on the agenda. We will be going to an executive session. Before we do that, can we go around the room? The mayor, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to let all of you know, last week, Derek Schultz and I traveled to DC to talk to our congresswoman and our 2 new senators about public power. Successful trip, but everybody is learning in DC. So one thing I would tell you, our residents have had a lot of questions about all of the things that are going on in news and budgets, and I would encourage that either you reach out to one of us so that we can communicate with the Congress or senators as your liaison, or if you are going to contact their office, do so in a kind manner. with very, very detailed specifics. Acronyms are not appreciated to senators that have been in DC for 30 days. So that would just be a little bit for our constituents that are concerned about things or questioning things. Also on that note, Amtrak came today to our office to discuss, basically to introduce themselves. There are two new individuals that replaced Derek James, and great young group of excited individuals working for Amtrak, and they're hoping within the next 3 months or so, they'll have an Amtrak update as to whether our funding was impacted or not on the freeze. But they are going to go back and try to have some of those conversations. But I was happy to have them. It's not every day that Amtrak group from Chicago comes to Bryan, so happy to see them there. I did have to kind of educate them on what the project looked like, what we had broken ground for last summer. So it was just good to have them in here. So I am keeping an eye on that project, and I wanted to make sure you
Were
knew
these
that.
funds
They were-
allocated through the infrastructure?
They were under Joe Biden's infrastructure. I know, Mr. Betts. So we're not sure, but I have asked them, if you know that this is something that we're not going to have available in 3 to 4 months, please let me reach out to our senators.
Well, the reason
as
I
well.
brought that up is that might be something worth contacting your congressperson about.
Yeah, well, I talked to Ms. Capter's aide when we had emailed afterwards, so I let Luke know that this was a concern of ours and they were looking into it. So,
Well, I talked with Marcy fairly directly about it about 3 weeks ago. She seemed very receptive. I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue as on some other sides, but we'll see.
no, I'd agree, but I think we need to remember too, like, there's a resolution on my desk from the vice president, who was the senator at the time, so I've let them know I'm not afraid to contact those
Sure.
with political will. They just have to let me know, and right now Amtrak's asking us to kind of lay off because they don't know. And they don't want to draw a target to something if they don't need to. So I'll just be keeping an eye on it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
John, anything?
No.
Department heads? Newspapers? With that, I'd like a motion to go in executive session and consider purchase or sale of property and competitive bidding with council, John, Derek, and the mayor.
So moved.
Second.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.